All right, here we go. Welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk with Hawk. I am Hawk. It is a gorgeous Wednesday morning. And today we're going to go over, we'll do our 3 and 3, the second 3 and 3 of the season. But we're going to look at the injury news and updates as of Wednesday morning. Now, this is before 8 o'clock, so this is before anything new comes out. But a couple of big things. Number one, and I didn't get into it too much when it originally happened. Had a couple comments, and then we basically moved on. Tua Tagovailoa has been put on the injured reserve with the concussion. Now, yes, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about what's going on behind the scenes. Here's the reality. This is what we know. The NFL wants Tua to retire. He's trying to say that, no, this is my first concussion, so he can change the narrative. I don't understand. Now, I listened to a couple players explain a player's mentality. I talked about it a little bit. I get that. I don't understand why you would want to lie and potentially harm your family. I don't. Now, kids these days, I mean, whatever. Tua is evidently a great teammate, good locker room presence, whatever. Fine. He's willing to lie to keep playing football and potentially get hurt in a major way and hurt his family. I have zero respect for that. I know it may sound harsh. The reality is your life matters more to your family than it does you sometimes. And in this instance, you being around for your family is a lot more important. Your contract, the part of it is already guaranteed. You'll make your money this year. You're already set for life. You don't have to worry about it if you're halfway smart with your money. Tua Tagovailoa is in a position where the next decision he makes will alter his life, whether he decides to try to play again or whether he decides to retire. It will change his life. And there's always going to be those people that play devil's advocate. Well, what if he never gets hit again at that way? What if he never... Listen, he's had 2 concussions. Technically, I believe he's had 3. He's trying to cover up 1, if not 2 of them. He's had 3. Let's stop playing around. The NFL can't afford to play around. This is why I believe he is on IR because of the NFL. The NFL has said put him on the 4-week IR. That way he can take time. We can make sure he's medically cleared. There's no questions. He makes a decision. We don't want him becoming an issue. That issue is still going back to Junior Seau's family that I still think was the biggest flub up there was. Junior Seau knew something was wrong. The care was what was wrong, not football. Now, you signed up to play football. You signed up to get hit by human missiles. You deal with the consequences. But when it comes to the head, and they're trying, but you know what? The reality is everybody's head is different. Everybody's head can take things differently. Tua is small. We have said this. Tua is small, and you can snap him. And that's what's happened. So Tua going on IR, I believe, is a move by the NFL telling the Dolphins, put him on IR, keep him out for X amount of games. We're going to make sure everything's clear before he steps foot on that field again. And if he decides to come back, he's going to have a lot more questions to answer about why he's endangering his life coming back than he will if he were to retire. And he'll get frustrated with the questions constantly of why are you playing? Why are you playing? He will. He'll get frustrated with it. Well, guess what? That shows people care a lot more about you, the person, living a life than they do you, the football player, who honestly, you're not that good anyway. You're just making money off of what the rest of the team can do. But that's fine. So Tua's on the IR. Then you've got these other injuries that are popping up. Cooper Kupp is now on the IR. I don't know what the Los Angeles Rams are going to do. You guys know how much I love the Rams. And the reality is, injuries have taken that dream out. Sean McVay, Rams are 0-2. Can they claw in the NFC? Absolutely. Absolutely. They can easily claw back. Okay. But it's going to be really hard, and it's only going to happen once the offensive line gets healthy. So still not for a couple of weeks. I think the Rams they're going to have an uphill battle, but I think once the offensive line's there, you're going to see the dominance, and they'll end up with 10 wins in the wild card spot probably. But that NFC West is potentially going to be really tough. It will potentially be tough. DeForest Buckner for the Indianapolis Colts, because of our idiot coach, was played on Sunday, and they put him on the IR due to a high ankle sprain. He tweaked his back even more. But they're covering it with a high ankle sprain. That way Shane Steichen doesn't look like an absolute buffoon for playing somebody who had a back injury. Because, yeah, that's smart. So the already risky Colts defense is currently down a defensive lineman and leader heading into a two-game stretch where they need to win both. They're at home against the Bears and they're at home against the Steelers. They need to win both. Need. It's not a question, it's a requirement. They need to win both. We'll go over that a little bit more in 3 and 3. Deebo Samuel is injured. Isaiah Pacheco, we mentioned, he's on the IR, out for 6 to 8 weeks. Graham Gano from the New York Giants, their kicker, was put on IR. The way everything is playing out right now, remember last year we had quarterbacks seemed like they were dropping left and right. So far, we have Tua and Jordan Love. 2 of the 32 are injured and have had somebody else start for them. Skylar Thompson hasn't started yet. He will. So only one is technically started, but that's 2. That's 2. So far, we're doing okay. Heading into week number 3. Now, we have got some really interesting games coming up. When we do our 3 and 3, you're going to find out about a couple of matchups. This week is going to be this week is hard pick'em wise. The spreads is a little bit easier. Vegas is kind of acting a little crazy right now. I think the numbers will drop before we do Friday's podcast. But the reality is, with all these injuries, what it really, really shows right now is taking the preseason off, and in a sense, training camp's so easy. These guys aren't ready to get hit. They're not ready to get hit. Taysom Hill is injured for the Saints. Justin Herbert is hit pretty badly injured. Now, he had an injury already. And now it seems like it's a little bit worse. Not really able to move much at all now. If we have all the quarterbacks playing, and let's say 6 of them, we'll say 6 get injured and have a backup start for them. We'll accept that because there's still going to be a lot of really good quarterback played football. But right now we've got Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Isaiah Pacheco out. Josh Downs has been out for the Colts. Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze is out for the Bears. Jordan Addison is out for the Vikings along with Justin Jefferson, who is hurt. A.J. Brown was out for the Eagles. I don't know. Having skill position players be out seems like it could be worse. Or is it going to show who can really be a quarterback in this league? Just a thought. All right, let's get into 3 and 3. So I told you guys last week that once we get into the season, the 3 teams that need a win will be teams that lost the previous week, and the 3 teams that have to avoid an L will be 3 teams that have won or are in a different in a slump or whatever it may be. But the 3 teams that need a W are teams that lost the previous week. So 3 and 3, second time of the year. Here we go. First team up in our 3 and 3, the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts are home against the Chicago Bears. Why do they need a W? Well, simple. They're now 0-2, and they just got embarrassed in Lambeau Field on the road by Malik Willis and Matt LaFleur. They were out-coached. They were outmatched. They were out-hustled. They were out everything in a game where they should have won. Packers put up 16 points, played a very conservative, safe style of football, yet never felt like they were going to lose the game. The Indianapolis Colts, without DeForest Buckner now, Juju Brents is on the IR. Kwity Paye has the ankle injury, which he's still going as far as the week is concerned, questionable. He'll be on a pitch count again. The defensive line is hurt. The linebacking core isn't great. The secondary only has 6 guys on the active roster. It's not good. And Chris Ballard is sitting on his hands, not signing a veteran to come in and help this team. They need a W because they've been lucky. The Jaguars have basically thrown away 2 wins this year. Jags are in trouble as far as the playoffs are concerned right now. Yeah, I'm saying right now. Jaguars have a legit chance to go 0-3 right now because they play Buffalo this week in Buffalo. If you want any shot of the playoffs, you cannot go 0-3 right now, especially in the AFC, especially when you've got the Raiders that just knocked off the Ravens and have a home date against Carolina. If you want a wild card spot, you have got to go win. You have got to win this week to save any resemblance of a playoff team early in the season before you hit the hard stretch of your schedule, before you hit the stretch where you're going up against teams that will be the upper echelon of their conferences. It doesn't make any sense why they're this bad. The Chicago Bears, the offense has been bad. They've let up sacks. But if they can figure out how to run the ball, this Colts defense is a sieve. The Indianapolis Colts need a clean game from Anthony Richardson, hit a couple big plays, get Jonathan Taylor going, and make a statement win. And I'm talking statement meaning 24-6, 24-10. Win this game to be able to start making the push that is needed to be able to make the playoffs. Because you don't have much time. You really don't. So the first team that need a W are the Indianapolis Colts. The second team that needs a W this week badly needs a W. This is going to be kind of oxymoron-ish, but the reality is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, why do I say that? Well, let me tell you. The Philadelphia Eagles go to the New Orleans Saints on Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys just got roasted by them in Dallas. You've got to prove you're not Dallas. And the other thing is, with the way the division is lining up, I don't know what everybody's dogging on the Commanders about. They got a W. They got a W. Jaden Daniels not turning the ball over. I'm sorry. I'll take that. If the Colts had a quarterback that wasn't turning the ball over, we'd have potentially 2 wins, but for sure 1. If we just don't turn the ball over. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off of that heartbreaking Monday Night Football loss, going to New Orleans, they need to show up. They need the W because Dallas is playing Baltimore, which oddly enough is the next team that we're going to have and need a W. But, first of all, the Eagles. The Eagles need a W because they can't let this division start slipping. They've got some tough games. They have a road date against Tampa Bay as well coming up. Tampa Bay is not an easy team to beat. They can throw the ball up and down the field. You're in a dome, regroup, run the ball, get the W over New Orleans. If you don't, you're now 1-2. And if the Cowboys lose, they're 1-2. Don't look now. Washington has a potential of being 2-1 after this week. They play Cincinnati. Let's be honest, Cincinnati isn't great. They played their hearts out against Kansas City. They lost a close game. I don't really believe they're good yet. T. Higgins is still out. I don't think he's going to be back for this game. If he does, he'll be limited. There's no run game for Cincinnati. Washington has a shot. So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to beat New Orleans, get the W, go back to 2-1, because you've got a stretch of games that is going to be rough, and you need to be above 500 coasting through this part of the season. Now, the third and final need a W team, Baltimore Ravens. You need to come out inspired, and you need to beat the Cowboys the way the Saints did and give the Cowboys back-to-back home losses for the first time in I don't know how long. They were 16-0 in their last home games, regular season home games. If you're Baltimore, you need a W. You need to go into the NFC Lamar Jackson has owned them. But you need to go into the NFC, into Dallas, beat the Cowboys, and come home 1-2, hoping that you're just a game behind. If the Chargers can beat Pittsburgh and keep everything really close. That's what you're hoping. And honestly, that's what you need to hope. There's the reality. All right. 3 teams that need to avoid an L. 3 teams that need to avoid an L. Number 1, big win over the Jacksonville Jaguars for them. The defense primarily carried them. Is Cleveland. Cleveland needs to avoid a bad loss against the Giants. Yes, I know I'm dogging on the Giants again. I'm sorry, the team sucks. Congratulations to Malik Neighbors. Don't want to take anything away. Daniel Jones didn't look horrible against Washington, but still didn't get the W. Couldn't convert 1 2-point conversion. The offensive line is not that good. Cleveland's defensive line, I believe, will be absolutely ecstatic to go after the Giants. Absolutely ecstatic. I expect a fantastic game by the Cleveland defensive line. Deshaun Watson hasn't been great. Really been rather mediocre. But they need to get the W over the Giants. They can't afford the L. You cannot afford a loss at home to the lowly Giants. You can't. That's not something that can happen. So that is a team that needs to avoid an L. Another team that needs to avoid an L, honestly, Tampa Bay. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that laugh. Tampa Bay is on a tear. Yes, you're right, but this is a sneaky game. Coming off of the emotional win in Detroit, and then you've got a really big game the next week. I believe they play the Eagles the next week. And then they got the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. They got a couple games after this game. You don't want to overlook the Broncos. The Broncos scored 20 against the Seahawks, 6 against the Steelers. Their defense hasn't been horrible, but the Buccaneers' offense has been good, but not on the ground. Not on the ground, only in the air. And when you're only good in the air, it makes you one-dimensional. Patrick Surtain, I believe, will be able to shut down one of the receivers. Chris Godwin has been Baker Mayfield's guy so far early in the season. Don't blame him. Mike Evans gets a lot of the attention. Throw it to the open guy. But here's the reality. It's a sneaky game. It's a very sneaky game. Emotional win over the Lions on the road, coming home against the Broncos, rookie quarterback, still finding his footing. You got to avoid the loss. If you're Tampa Bay, you need to avoid the loss, go 3-0, because you've got the hard stretch of your schedule starting up here very soon. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the second team that need to avoid the L. Have to avoid the loss here. All right. The third and final team that needs to avoid a loss, Seattle. I know it sounds odd. I could have put the Raiders here against the Panthers, but Andy Dalton and the Panthers' personnel is not as ugly as their team is right now. The personnel is not that bad. But the quarterback was awful. Bryce Young is benched. Andy Dalton, an adult, a leader, very competent quarterback. Game manager is now in play. He is in play. Because of that, the Raiders, the game's a little bit more evenly matched. The point differential after Young got benched dropped. I think it dropped 2.5 or 3 points with Andy Dalton starting. That's how much Vegas believed Bryce Young sucked. That simple. So the third team that needs to avoid an L is the Seahawks, coming back home from that game against New England. Home against the Dolphins, no Tua. Skylar Thompson starting. Don't get caught. Don't underestimate Skylar. Don't think that he can't throw the ball at all. Don't think this is going to be easy. Avoid the loss at home. Get yourself to 3-0. You will be atop of the NFC West. I said they'd be sniffing a playoff spot. I don't think they can maintain the success at this point. They've played the Broncos, first game as a rookie quarterback. They've played the Patriots, took them to overtime. Okay, let's just be honest here. Let's not freak out. Okay? Seahawks may be 2-0, but you got to go 3-0 when the opposing team's quarterback is out. This is the thing about the Colts last week. Malik Willis is coming in. Malik Willis was signed at the end of training camp. He was one of the guys that was added to the 53-man roster traded for. Like, he's not even been in the building for a month. And you lost. Skylar Thompson's been around. He played last year. He knows this offense. Don't underestimate him. Make a game plan to stop the Dolphins' offense and avoid what could be a really bad loss at home to the Miami Dolphins. All right, just to recap real fast. So 3 teams that need to avoid an L. The Cleveland Browns against the Giants at home. Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Broncos at home. And the Seattle Seahawks against the Miami Dolphins, also at home. The teams that need a W, the Indianapolis Colts at home against the Chicago Bears, the Philadelphia Eagles on the road against the Saints, and the Baltimore Ravens on the road against the Dallas Cowboys. So there is your 3-3 for week number 2. Heading in to week 3. All right, we've gone over the injuries. We've gone through 3-3. We've talked about Tua a lot. I mean, I gave you the full ramification thoughts that I had on the subject. So let's talk about what's happening in the NFL. It's been wild and wacky in the first couple weeks, and this is how we'll close this one out. So let's talk about what's happened in the NFL for a couple minutes. Let's wrap this up. So this past week, you saw a Minnesota Viking team knock off a San Francisco 49er team that played on Monday Night Football and then went on the road to Minnesota. Minnesota, having a quarterback that knows them because he was there last year, played a perfect game plan and honestly did exactly what needed to be done in order to be a team like the 49ers. The Raiders, I still don't know how that happened. I don't. I think the Ravens got too soft. They got too comfortable with where they were. So the Ravens lose to the Raiders at home. The Lions got humbled at home. Big emotional win on Sunday night. That's why I'm talking about emotional wins. These are still human beings. Emotions play a factor. Still human beings. And honestly, the reality with this is the Lions really rolled over. Jared Goff was bad. Like I said in the recap, he was bad. It's not that the Bucs defense is that great. So the Buccaneers beat the Lions, Raiders beat the Ravens, the Vikings beat the 49ers, the Browns go into Jacksonville. Jacksonville, their only time their offense looks good is when they let Trevor Lawrence go loose. 2-minute warning, hurry up. Seems kind of like that's maybe the offense they should be running. I don't know. You know, the way that the game played out between the Seahawks and the Patriots going to overtime, the Bengals and the Chiefs, regardless of the controversy, been reading it all morning, all yesterday. Regardless of the controversy, the game was a 1-point game. Regardless of the drop on Monday Night Football, regardless of that, the Eagles and Falcons was an amazing game to watch. An amazing game to watch. It's been wild to this point. And this is what we want. So we'll do tomorrow. It'll be my first ever. I don't ever do it in the first week. I didn't do it last week. We'll have my top 10 rankings tomorrow. That'll be the Thursday night episode as we get into. So I guess I should give you my pick ahead of time for the Jets and Patriot game. So let's go ahead and wrap that up with this. I'll give you my top 10 next, the next podcast. So Thursday night, I'll do my top 10, giving it 2 weeks. And I'll give you, who I'm buying, who I'm selling, and who I'm, just kind of got to wait and see. But I'll give you my top 10 teams in the NFL. Won't necessarily be in specific order. I'll try to number, the top 5, but then it'll be the 5 other teams. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of teams that are relatively close to each other. So tomorrow's episode will be the top 10. Start looking ahead to this weekend. And my prediction for Thursday night, Patriots at the Jets. Jets home opener. I don't know. The Patriots, to me, seem like a team that's controlled. They're composed. So my prediction is going to be 2017 Jets win by a field goal. And the Patriots continually prove they will not be an easy out, which if you remember in my preseason predictions, I said they won't be an easy out. You won't want to play them. You're going to play a lot harder against them than you wish you would. So there's my prediction. Thursday Night Football, Jets over the Patriots 20-17. Tomorrow night we'll do my first ever top 10 of the season. Look at a couple other things. And we'll see where it goes from there. And then obviously Friday night will be the picks of the week. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the podcast, ring the notification bell so that you know every time a new episode goes live. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love having you around. Thank you for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your evening. For Sports Talk with Hawk, I'm Hawk, and I'm out.